Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tea time. Oh my god, because I want to keep the profanity down, but what the, come on, let's get into this. We're talking about patch notes, no further ado, 0% ado. This is awesome. This is such a cool thing that I never personally thought about. I should have thought about it, but I didn't. Right? It's okay. In any case, the idea is that they have rushy maps and they have giant maps, so that way they get a bigger diversity of play, and they can get different feedback from different maps, and then they'll be able to say, oh, this unit's not so weak, it's just weak on these really rush maps, etc., etc. So that's really cool. Hopefully they'll continue to have a huge diversity of maps and all of that jazz. Moving on. Next, they talk about their philosophy of buffing the weak units rather than nerfing the strong units. I don't really know how I feel about this because it doesn't really feel like, oh, well, sort of one way or the other. I mean, the questions come in, right, about power creep, the idea of like, oh, well, if everything just becomes stronger, but in an RTS, I think that's a lot less of something that you have to worry about, per se, because it's not like these expansions are coming out all the time, and it's not like it just becomes this giant buff thing where eventually zealots have 1,000 hit points. It's not going to happen. I don't think it's anything we have to worry about. It's not really consequential as far as I've seen it happen. In any case, this sort of explains the fact that the Ravager is not getting nerfed. Don't freak out, guys. The Ravager is not getting nerfed. Stuff's getting buffed, though, so let's check that out. The Adept just got 40 hit points. What the Seriously, that's a lot of hit points. I mean, that is a lot of hit points, and it was already kind of this beefy unit as it is. I know, you're like, Jack, no, it's so small and weak, but seriously, you should have seen this thing fight against Hydras in a unit tester if you haven't done it. It's pretty intense. It can take a lot of hits, and now it can take a lot more hits, which is exciting for me because I've been opening 2-gate Adept in PvZ. In addition, they got rid of the bouncy upgrade and added a upgrade, which means 50 hit points. If ever you wanted to know, that's what that means. That's just the beginning of the Adept. It's not the Adept is going to get any bigger, but 50 hit points. My God. So that's a total of, so it starts at 180 hit points, which, by the way, is more than most units at that stage of the game. It might be like, it's more than a Roach. It might be the beefiest unit. The Adept may be. It looks weird, right? The Adept may be the beefiest unit in the early game in Legacy of the Void, with an upgrade to make it have more beef. So, they're basically saying the Adept is not a vegetarian in any way at all. Also, another great change, the Adept Shade can be canceled. So cool, so awesome. I love it so much. It adds to this decision-making thing. It makes it fun without making it blink, right? Because if you choose exactly when it changes, it becomes blink. But this is sort of like an anti-blink where you choose when it doesn't. It's like, okay, it's lining up. No, actually, cancel, pull out. I think we'll be able to see a lot of cool plays with that. And I'm really, really happy about it. I was sort of initially with the, okay, 7 seconds are done, you teleport no matter what. I was always sort of like, I don't know how I feel about that. I'm sure it's good. They don't want it to be blink. I wish there was more control over it. And apparently a lot of other people were saying the same thing. And now there is more control, which is awesome. It's really nice. The Immortal Barrier ability is up to 200 hit points again. It was at 200, then it was at 100, and it's back up to 200, kind of going back and forth on this. I think that the real change that would be significant would be to change how long those hit points exist. Right now they exist for 2 seconds, Legacy of the Void time. But I kind of like it. I'm not going to lie, I kind of like it. I kind of like them really keeping that 2 seconds of barrier, keeping it at 2 seconds, keeping it nice and low. Because then otherwise it's just sort of, go into the battle, turn it on, and march forward with extra hit points. It becomes very like the Void Ray ability. It's just like, and more damage. I wasn't really ever getting into a situation where 200 burst damage would come down upon my face, but in any case, it apparently was happening and was a problem, and now it'll be better. So that's cool. Speaking of buffs, oh wait, this is actually a nerf. The Cyclone got a nerf. It's very small. It's very, it's very sort of like finesse, like the finesse tennis play. Backhand, there it is, It's very finessey. And what's happening is they're changing the range, which was already kind of a confusing thing, but now that it's changed, let me re-explain it, and just in case you were confused. The way that's going to work now is, there are two main ranges for the Cyclone, which is how long of a distance it takes to lock on, and then once you're locked on, how long is that range, right? That lock-on range. And it used to be, initially, You would lock on at 6 range, and then the range would expand to 15. What they're doing now is the initial lock-on range is 6, just like before, and now it expands to 12. Then, when you get the upgrade, both ranges get upgraded. It used to be that one range got upgraded, that how close you have to get to lock on, that range got upgraded, but the main max range was always 15. Now it's not. So very, very slight change, and I'm going to have to throw out all the research that I was doing for the Cyclone for the next video, so yeah, that's beta. The Lurker now has 9 range, straight up. Holy shit, is that appropriate? I think that's incredibly appropriate because, like I was saying before, it was either that, like, it's either you make the Lurker stronger or you change the tech path to get to the Lurker. Like, you remove the Lurker den and just make it so that Hydras just turn into Lurkers, just like roaches turn into Ravagers, which to me was sort of like, as it is, I was really hoping for some sort of like tech gating thing for the Ravager, so it would be like an upgrade to turn into Ravagers, or there would be a Ravager den, or something like a Ravager Warren, as it would be, right, or something like that, but they're putting that off for the time being. I think that it's going to be necessary eventually, and I think that it makes it a lot more interesting, a lot more scoutable as well. Even if it's a short thing, even if it's like 20 seconds to turn the Roach Warren into a Ravager Warren or something like that. I think it would be kind of nice, but we'll see what happens. But back to the Lurker range at 9 is they went with that option, right? They went with the let's make the Lurker stronger option, which I think is really cool and interesting, and I'm really looking forward to see how exactly the Lurker ends up playing out. It did feel like this sort of, oh man, the Lurker's back. When the hell do you get a Lurker? Oh, well, I guess you can. But now it's sort of like, oh, you know what? We could get a Lurker here. And they've become much stronger, which is cool. I'm looking forward to seeing the Lurker play, especially. Tempest Disintegration ability has been increased to 550 damage over 80 seconds from 500 damage? Like, what? Is it? What? Like, I don't... Who cares? I hate to be that guy, but here I am, like, another 50 damage. Well, all right, okay. Probably the main thing that's going on here about the disintegration is that you can't regenerate or heal or repair health. So that was kind of like, oh no, my unit's gonna die. Repair, repair, repair. Now it's not. But I haven't seen any disintegration happening at all. Nope, I haven't seen a single disintegration since I started playing Legacy of the Void Beta. That means maybe I need to play more and cast more, but maybe that also means that it's a small sample size. Forget about it. What's next? This is kind of cool. They're giving us a preview into what maybe the next patch would look like and the different things they're looking for feedback on, which is kind of helpful for the beta process, I think, because it helps us focus into our feedback into particular areas that they're working on. So like Blizzard and the community can like work together because there's that communication there, which is really nice. So what we're looking for is Protoss' ability to take bases on larger maps. Number 1, we're considering having specific units warp in faster. Maybe they adapt. I hate that so much. Doesn't that feel like a band-aid to you guys? That feels to me so much like a band-aid. Like, the main problem is the economy, and the band-aid is make the adapt warp in faster in this particular point in the meta, and then that will be able to it feels very band-aidy. It feels like they're not addressing the core problem of the economy here, which is the reason why I think it's Protoss is having a harder time taking bases later in larger maps, just because they're being forced to take those bases. I think that a much better solution, which has been discussed a lot, and we're going to keep discussing and keep talking about it, is don't punish the Protoss for not expanding. Give an advantage to the Zerg player for expanding. That's what incentivize expansions, not punish people for not expanding, which I think is a much better direction to take things. And while the Legacy of the Void economy, I think, is much better than Heart of the Swarm, it's a step in the right direction. It's not enough, in my opinion. We need more. We need to keep talking about this economy change. We talk about double mining. We need to talk about worker AI and worker pairing. That really is the core problem in all of this base stuff. Number 2, splitting mech upgrades. This is the thing, right? It's been talked about quite a bit, Splitting mech upgrades could very well be the next bunker time change joke, because it kind of goes back and forth, and it's cool that they haven't made the decision to change it so much. It's only changed from being really inefficient to being really efficient. But that keeps getting brought up in balance test maps, like, oh, maybe not, maybe not. I don't really know what it is, what that effect is going to be. I kind of agree. They're talking about over here. They're saying like we want to see how strong mech really is, especially when the other unit races sort of have tools, I think, to deal with mech. So that's kind of cool. So think about it. I don't know. And finally, transitioning into late game units. I feel like it was very clear, at least in the first batch of Legacy of the Void notes, that they were really incentivizing moving to Tier 3 and making Tier 3 a lot stronger. With the Ultralisk, with the Viper having a new ability, with the Adrenal Glands, with the Carrier being buffed, with a Battlecruiser being buffed, all of these things, like very much like, hey, make it to Tier 3. And I think that works out really well for Zerg in a lot of situations, especially with that Viper upgrade to deal with air and the Adrenalings, the Cracklings, quite nice. I think a little bit less so, though, for Terran Bio, because I think it's a little bit more difficult for a Terran Bio player to make it into like battle cruisers, late game, fast Banshee, harass business. When you're comparing that to, how easy it is for a mech player. So maybe that's something they're talking about with splitting the mech upgrades, making it equally difficult to transition to mass air, either from a bio or a mech perspective. I think it's really cool, though, that we even are making these decisions and these things are actually happening, because it's just this really unique tech tree compared to the other two races. And I really like that asymmetry. I think it's sort of really fun to consider. I mean, I think most people want this, right? Including Blizzard. Bio and mech become equally viable, equally useful. They're both options. You can combine them. You can mix and match. You have a lot of different ways that you can go about doing it. And there's a lot of strategic diversity. That's kind of a word that I'm going to be throwing around a lot, because I think really that's one of the main... we have a moment here, we have an opportunity here to really broaden the strategic diversity of StarCraft, and make it a lot more complex or rather deep, than just a cost efficiency unit composition battle, which tends to sort of take the charge with things. That's it for the patch notes. And now other things. I went to GameFest. Check out my cool shirt, yo. GameFest is a Georgia Tech thing. They have incredibly fast internet. Holy crap, 900 up, 900 down. And that's not kilobytes, that's megabytes. It's crazy. They're like second to the Pentagon. It's nuts. Met a lot of really cool people. I would start naming off names, but then I would forget someone and feel awful. So if you were there and we hung out and talked, this is your heart. This is your GameFest heart. But yeah, it was really cool. We hung out, we ate Chipotle, and we casted some games and played Starcraft and watched Starcraft on the big screen at fantastic upload and download speeds, and it was awesome. So it was great to meet all those people there. And it's cool because they're kind of all in my area, and I don't really know a lot of human beings physically in my area, so we'll probably do some hanging out and stuff like that. And yeah, it was just a really great time. So thanks to everyone who went to GameFest, and hopefully I'll see you next GameFest. As far as content goes, been doing a lot of Legacy of the Void stuff. I've been doing some casting. I think I'm going to try to cast, so I keep this like every 2 days, a new cast gets uploaded. Whenever there are patch notes, I'm going to do a video like this in a tea time where I talk about the patch notes, and then I talk about other announcements that happen. And then also analyses on particular things. Like I'm doing a analysis on the Ultralisk armor and how it affects different battles and different sort of unit ratio. How many Marauders did it take to kill an Ultra before? How many does it take now? What is the difference? What does it matter? And things like that. The Cyclone, which I was working on, is gonna have to be tweaked a little bit. I did kind of go a little bit overboard and saying I have to throw everything out. I won't have to throw everything out, but I'm just gonna have to reanalyze a little bit before I get that Cyclone video out. And I'm working on a huge video about the economy. Basically, it's really unfortunate, but a lot of the hype that long post by Zero Muse got didn't get read. It's sort of, people skimmed over it, said, oh yeah, I think I understand it, didn't really understand it, and then spread a lot of misinformation all over the place. Fortunately enough, Zero Muse has been working like a maniac to dispel any of that misinformation and let everybody know what's going on. We're getting a lot of people behind this push. Greetorp, Artosis, myself, And Zero Muse is just talking to a lot of people. He's jumping on the late game to talk about it. He's jumping on the Desro show to talk about it. It's great. It's really good. I really think we have this opportunity here to make vast improvements to StarCraft 2 and make it a much more strategically diverse game. And I'm going to do my best to make a video that's concise, that is short enough that people will watch it all the way to the end, and that is direct and well written enough so that people will understand it clearly the first time they watch it, which is really difficult because this is a complex issue, and there's a lot of little paths where you can get misled into thinking that it means something else, right? So it's going to take me a while to get done, but in the meantime, please take the time to read that article. It is, and I've said this before, I'm going to continue to say it, that is the most important article written in the history of StarCraft 2, period. Go fucking read it. Read every single fucking word of it. I don't like to swear too much. That's wrong. I like to swear all the time. I try to keep swearing out of my videos, but that's how important this is. Go read it. Read the whole thing. Read it in parts. Read it like you read a book. You're like, oh, you know what? I'm losing my focus. I'm not really retaining all this information. I'm gonna step away, take a break. I'm at this chapter, right? Read a little bit at a time. Whatever you have to do. Read all of the words, internalize them, understand them, and when you do, you're going to understand. You're going to figure out, holy shit, this is gigantic. You're going to understand why I'm calling this article the most important article ever written in the history of StarCraft 2. You're going to understand that once you read it all the way through. And it's difficult, and nobody likes to read, and I get that, but please, this is your opportunity. This is your chance to contribute in a gigantic way, and you just have to read. You just have to read a little bit. A lot of it. Let's be honest, you have to read a lot of it. I promise you that it's worth the time to read. It's worth the read. Do what you have to do. Read it, and the video will be coming out eventually, but please, in the meantime, I don't know if I've said this before, read the fucking article. And on that note, I will see you all very soon. Farewell.